What's that?
Well, so 5:30. Good evening, everybody. I'll call the statutory public meeting of Sioux to order at 5:30 p.m. Introduction of amendments to the agenda and a motion that the agenda for the statutory public meeting, March 20th, 2024 be approved as presented. Moved by Councillor Lego, seconded by Councillor Timpson. All in favor? Carried. Declarations of pecuniary interest. And application, staff report, zoning bylaw amendment application Z02-2024 and Z03-2024. This public meeting is being held pursuant to section 34 and section 36(4) of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, chapter P13 as amended and applicable regulations. The purpose and effect of the first zoning bylaw application, zoning bylaw amendment application, Z02-2024, is to remove the holding H symbol on the zoning of the subject property. The removal of holding symbol is required in order to permit future development on the subject property. The purpose and effect of the second zoning bylaw amendment application, Z03-2024, is to refine the existing mixed use exception to holding MU2H zone and environmental protection EP zone boundaries on the subject property in order to facilitate a proposed commercial development and to add site-specific zoning standards. The manager of development services will confirm how notice was served to advertise this public meeting.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, notice was served by the local newspaper through a mail out to all neighbors within 120 meters and a sign posted on site.
The manager of development services will provide a summary of the application.
Mayor Lawrence, applications for a zoning bylaw amendment and a removal of a holding provision have been initiated by the municipality of Sioux for subject lands located on Hillcrest Drive and legally described as parts 1 and 2, Plan 23R9640, Part 1, Plan on Plan 23R7287, and Part 1 on Plan 23R9564. Subject lands are owned by the municipality and are designated and zoned for commercial development. Subject lands have a lot area of approximately 19 hectares and a lot frontage of approximately 350 meters on Hillcrest Drive. Subject lands also have approximately 600 meters of frontage on the Ed Ariano bypass. The area of the site to be developed is approximately 5.5 hectares in size and fronts Hillcrest Drive. Subject lands are designated mixed. Oh. That's better. Subject lands are designated mixed use and environmental protection in the official plan and are located within the mixed use exception to holding zone and environmental protection zone of the zoning bylaw. The zoning bylaw does not include specific wording and requirements to remove the holding provision on the subject lands. However, the official plan does include policies on this matter. The immediate surrounding land uses include industrial uses, forested lands, residential uses, and other commercial uses. The purpose and effect of the zoning bylaw amendment and removal of the holding provision applications is to amend/apply site-specific standards and provisions to the subject lands to accommodate the proposed commercial development type, refine the environmental protection zone mapping on the subject lands to reflect the results of an environmental impact study, and to remove the holding provision on the basis that the subject lands are ready for development and an agreement will be entered into for each lot prior to the development to the satisfaction of the municipality. An environmental impact study was prepared by WSB Canada Limited due to the presence of a provincially significant wetland on the subject lands. The study concludes that the proposed development can be supported in accordance with the relevant provincial and municipal environmental policies, subject to the following recommendations. 1, implement a 30-meter buffer from the boundary of the provincially significant wetland. Implement ecological enhancements on the 30-meter buffer through a combination of native herbaceous seeding and nodal native species plantings. Limit access to the 30-meter buffer area, as well as the provincially significant wetland through fencing or other measures. Examine the design to better maintain existing surface water and hydrological inputs to receiving areas, including site water balance, and other mitigations will be required and implemented through the plan of subdivision and or site plan control processes. Changes to the current zoning provisions for the MU zone are needed to support this unique type of development, with individual lots fronting a shared parking area. Following a review of the MU2 zone and the general provisions of the zoning bylaw, the following site-specific amendments are recommended. The minimum lot area of 400 square meters shall not apply. Building and structures shall be located a minimum of 3 meters from the right-of-way of Hillcrest Drive. Building and structures shall be set back a minimum of 4 meters from the boundary of the parking lot where the front/axis of the building/structure is located. For the purposes of individual lots, buildings and structures shall be located a minimum of 2 meters from any other lot line. Where buildings and or structures are vertically attached, the minimum setback between lot lines shall be 0 meters. The minimum required loading spaces shall not apply. A minimum of 255 parking spaces shall be provided, inclusive of barrier-free parking. General parking provisions require 1 parking space per 100 square meters. Accessory dwelling units shall be permitted, subject to the results of an updated noise study. The purpose of this report and the statutory public meeting is to seek comments on the proposed development, specifically related to the zoning bylaw amendment and the removal of the holding provision. Staff will prepare a subsequent recommendation report to council following the statutory public meeting. Typically, we would include an option to approve the amendment at the council meeting immediately following the statutory public meeting where no concerns are raised. Due to interest for accessory residential uses from developers at the site, we have included in the amendment permissions to include dwelling units accessory to commercial uses. This requires an update to the previously completed noise and vibration study to either show that there are no issues with noise and vibrations at the site for these sensitive uses, or will provide mitigation measures for the residential uses. This updated study is not yet complete. We hope to bring the report to the next council meeting.
Thank you. The Manager of Development Services will read out any correspondence received from government agencies and municipal staff.
Dear Mayor Lawrence, no comments were received.
The Manager of Development Services will read out any correspondence received from members of the public.
Dear Mayor Lawrence, no comments were received.
The applicant or representative is invited to speak to the application. That is us, so the CAO.
Yes, so essentially these zoning bylaw applications and proposed revisions are intended to enable the development of the Hillcrest property, as has been discussed with council over the last period of time. So as our manager of development services have pointed out, this evening is just sort of provide the foundational information, and then we'll bring a recommendation report to actually proceed with these revisions, barring of course any comments or concerns from council. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from members of council? Councilor Lehman.
Yeah, just in regards to attachment 4, it shows a new road joining up with Ariano bypass. I'm just wondering if for the construction, has the funds been included in what was already been approved by council? Or is that something that will be brought to council at a further date? It shows right at the bottom right-hand side that there's a road that goes off to the Ariano, and it's in the report as well.
Can you show me which?
Is that an easement or is it an actual road?
So there's supposed to be an alternate road. Unless I read that wrong, but I don't believe I did. To go from
The attachment. Oh,
this one right here.
Oh, Through you, Mayor Lawrence, that's just the loop for the Hillcrest Cemetery.
Oh, not the loop. Okay, I thought,
That's Hillcrest Drive along the frontage of this property,
okay.
and then that's the loop, that's the actual cemetery in here.
But I know that says in the report that, you know, there may be access from the Ariano bypass.
No, there's frontage on the other area and a bypass. So what part of this amendment is when through the environmental impact study process, they actually properly map the wetland itself. Originally, when they did it through aerial photography in the 90s and just kind of laid it out. So it is now physically walked and the boundaries of the wetland have changed. So it's just the brunt of the amendment only encompasses the development area, but the boundary has been altered to reflect what was mapped on site.
So just the one access then.
Yeah, just the access to Hillcrest, nothing on the other areas.
Thanks.
Any further, council? Councilor Timpson.
This to be to the area. To be safety fires and so on.
You may, Lawrence, there will be limit like an emergency access point to First Ave, but to go through at the Ariano bypass, that would be directly through the bridge to significant wetland, you know, real easy way to access.
It would be an emergency exit if there were wildfires, so it would be an alternate way of, if necessary.
Yeah, through you may, Lawrence, yes.
Anything further, council? Members of the public are invited to speak to the application. The public can ask questions of clarification or seek background information, speak in support of the application, or speak in opposition to the application. All questions will be directed through the chair. It is requested that only one question be asked at a time. Please identify yourself before you ask your question so that you can be properly recorded in the minutes of the hearing. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak to the application? No members of the public wishing to speak to the application? Right. This concludes the public meeting regarding zoning bylaw amendment application Z02-2024 and zoning bylaw amendment application Z03-2024. If any member of the public wishes to be notified of the decision of council in respect of the application, you must make a written request to the planning coordinator. Notice to appeal the decisions of council to the Ontario Land Tribunal must be filed with the planning coordinator no later than 20 days from the date the notice of decision is circulated. The notice to appeal shall be sent to the attention of the planning coordinator, and it must include the following information: the reasons for the appeal and the fee as prescribed under the Ontario Land Tribunal Act in the amount of $1,100 for each zoning bylaw amendment payable by certified check to the Minister of Finance, Province of Ontario. Zoning bylaw amendment and removal of holding provision. So we're going to do, there will be a motion, CIO? Yep.
You may want to, yes. So the motion is just to receive the report and to direct staff to prepare a recommendation.
The council receives the planning report dated March 20th, 2024, respecting zoning bylaw amendment application number Z03-2024 and removal of holding provision application number Z02-2024. And further, the council directs staff to prepare a subsequent planning report for presentation to council at a subsequent council meeting that considers the feedback received at the March 20th, 2024 statutory public meeting. Moved by Councilor Cosgrove, seconded by Councilor Van Rita. All in favor? Carried. Bylaw number 23-24 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of Sioux, March 20th, 2024 statutory public meeting be read a first, second, and third time in place. Moved by Councilor Bowman, seconded by Councilor Cosgrove. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Steph.
Let's just before we adjourn the meeting, I just wanted to take this opportunity. I wasn't sure that he would be in attendance this evening, but to introduce to council our new planning coordinator, Aaron Bright, who's sitting there next to Jody. So just wanted to make sure he feels welcome and part of the team. And by all accounts, from things I've been hearing, he's been doing a great job in the short time he's been with us. And so I just wanted to make that formal introduction. Thank you.
Thanks to you. And this is one of the few public planning meetings where there's not public present, so consider yourself lucky for your introduction. That perhaps that's uncalled for. It's different when planning brings out people, for sure. In a positive way, participating in the democratic process. I'll call the regular council meeting March the 20th to order at 5:45 p.m. and ask for any amendments to the agenda.
I have none.
A motion that the agenda for the regular council meeting of March 20th, 2024 be approved as presented. Moved by Councilor Lego, seconded by Councilor Van Breda. All in favor? Carried. Declarations of pecuniary interest.
Few new ones, I have none.
Thank you. I should have before we start with we did receive a request from Councilor Cassidy, not absent, since he sent adoption of the minutes. That the February 21st, 2024 regular council meeting minutes, the February 1st, 2024, January 15th, 2024, November 30th, 2023, and the April 11th, 2023 special council meeting minutes, and the December 13th, 2023 public hearing meeting, and the June 21st, 2023 statutory public meeting minutes be approved as presented. Moved by Councilor Costco, seconded by Councilor Lego. Discussion. Councilor Bone.
April 11th. I'm just wondering why it took so long for the April 11th, 2023 minutes to come across.
Yeah, so few new ones. The few from 2023, there was a bit of a changeover in staff during that time, and I take full responsibility. That was something that I had missed. I thought that they had been brought forward, but I missed that. So we just wanted to get them approved. Better late than never, I suppose.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Any further? All in favor? Carry. Motion to receive minutes of the February 5th, 2024 Environment Committee meeting. Moved by Councilor Van Breda, seconded by Councilor Bowen. And any discussion? All in favor? Carried. And a motion to receive minutes of January 19th, 2024 and December 1st, 2023 Board of Health for the Northwestern Health Unit meetings and the January 25th, 2024 Kenora Home for the Aged Board of Management meeting. Moved by Councilor Lego, seconded by Councilor Van Breda. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Determination of items requiring separate discussion. So we'll go through the items. 7.1, waste diversion options for the municipality of Sioux. Councilor Costco. 7.2, arena roof shingle replacement. Councilor Van Breda. 7.3, 2024 water and sanitary sewer rates. Councilor Timpson. 7.4, for the center flooring replacements and installation of wall padding. Councilor Costco. 7.5, Hugh Island Clinic heat pump RTU replacements. 7.6, public survey on levels of service. Councilor Van Breda. 7.7, look at wastewater treatment plant expansion, professional project management services. 7.8, transfer funds for new septic truck. 7.9, one-time operating, so 2024, one-time operating and capital projects for approval. Councilor Timpson. 7.10, Hope Air request for letter of support. So we have for separate discussion is 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, 7.4, 7.6, 7.9. So an adoption, a motion to adopt the items not requiring separate discussion, items 7.5, 7.7, 7.8 and 7.10. Moved by Councilor Costco, seconded by Councilor Bone. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And now we have delegations. Two delegations this evening. The first is the 2023 Silicon and Hudson Drinking Water Systems. The presenter is Jessica Apple, Manager of QMS and Compliance at Northern Waterworks. And is available.
Hello.
Hello, Jessica. Welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, I introduce you as the first delegation, and the table is yours.
All right, then I'll get right to the presentation. I believe Dan Perron's in the room as well.
He is.
All right. I couldn't see, I had to stream your meeting before I got brought in here, so I wasn't sure. All right, because he can also help answer any of your questions. So
Dan's going to move up and take a seat and have the microphone ready.
all righty then. Can you see? Hopefully you're seeing my screen.
Yes. Yeah, we can see your screen. Yes.
Okay. All righty. We'll just get to it then. So I'm here to share with you just some highlights from the annual drinking water reports for the Sioux Lookout Urban Drinking Water System and the Hudson Drinking Water System. So these annual reports summarize the operation of the drinking water system over the previous calendar year, and they're developed in accordance with the regulations, Section 11 and Schedule 22 of Ontario Regulation 170. This is all to meet the requirements of the Safe Drinking Water Act. As I said, we've got both Hudson and Sioux Lookout, so I'll cover Sioux Lookout first and then move into the Hudson report. And this is intended to inform council as well as the public on the operations of the systems over the previous calendar year. So it includes system expenses, water quality monitoring results, flow rates, adverse water quality incidents, and any incidents of regulatory non-compliance. This helps council as the owner to assess the functionalities of the system and ensure they meet existing and planned water supply demands, and that you have the capability to operate within the parameters by the regulations. An important thing to note is that the report must be made available for inspection by the public. So it's my understanding in general, copies are made available at the municipal offices in Sioux Lookout, the Lost Lake Seniors Drop-In Center in Hudson, and usually on the municipal website as well. I didn't actually check to see if it was there or not, but we also include it on the Northern Waterworks website as well.
Yes, and Jessica, we typically post once council formally receives them after this meeting, so they'll be up early next week. Yeah.
Perfect. So in section 2 of the report, there's a brief description of the system and a list of the treatment chemicals used. So for Sioux Lookout, water from Pelican Lake is treated using a flocculation process, membrane filtration, and both UV and chlorine disinfection. So in 2023, there were no significant changes to the treatment process or the treatment chemicals used. The Sioux Lookout drinking water system is comprised of both the treatment and water distribution subsystems, with Northern Waterworks serving as your accredited operating authority. Section 2 also includes a list of major expenses required to install, repair, or replace required equipment and infrastructure. You'll note a good portion of the expenses last year were in your distribution system. So I will moving on. Section 3 of the report summarizes the results of water quality monitoring. Drinking water samples are tested routinely for microbiological and chemical parameters. And in 2023, all the microbiological and chemical results were well below the associated Ontario drinking water quality standards. The microbiological quality of drinking water, as I'm sure you know, is really important because of its association with waterborne diseases. So there were also no confirmed harmful algal blooms in 2023. So this is a tough one to explain a little bit, but I'll try my best. According to the regulations, the standard for trihalomethanes, which we call THMs, and haloacetic acids, or HAAs, is a running annual average of quarterly results. So each quarter, we have to redo the calculation for the previous 4 quarters. So it just keeps moving along. The 2023 Q2, Q3, and Q4 running annual averages were below the drinking water quality standards. We did have, and I know this was discussed at the council meeting last year, the running annual average for haloacetic acids for Q4 of 2022 went above the limit, and it was reported as an AWQI. And then in Q1, it remained elevated, but there was certainly discussion with the Northwestern Health Unit, and the recommendation was to just continue monitoring until the membranes were replaced. And we moved that up a bit. I think the initial plan was to replace them in Q3, but we actually had them replaced by the end of May in Q2. They had also recommended that if we have any additional issues with exceedances, that perhaps an installation of a bleeder line at the airport in the summer months might help us with those exceedances, because it helps to turn over the water age in the distribution system. So both AWQIs, though, were resolved in June. So immediately following the replacement of those membranes, we saw those results come into line, and there were no further issues with HAAs in your system. We also had 2 incidents in 2023 resulting in localized precautionary boil water advisories. So as always, corrective actions included flushing adjacent water mains, restoring the chlorine residual, and continuing to monitor the residual in the area. The one on Front Street, a repair was completed, and both of these boil waters were within the same time frame, so both were actually rescinded on the same day in September, on September 20th, 2023. Regulatory compliance. So this speaks to the inspection that was held. The inspection was started in December. The on-site portion was in December. We received the final report the beginning of January. And the final inspection rating was 96.45%. There was one incident of regulatory noncompliance identified. And this was that within our let me see here. The regulations state that systems providing secondary disinfection shall ensure at least 7 distribution samples are taken each week and are tested immediately for free chlorine residual if the system provides chlorination. So in order to meet this requirement, our operators regularly collect daily chlorine grab samples. Chlorine residuals are also collected during routine bacteriological sampling in the distribution system. So on 2 days in 2022, distribution chlorine residuals were not recorded as required on 2 occasions. The sampling was done, but we didn't have the results recorded in the spreadsheet, so there was no proof that the sampling was done. So all NWI operators who work in the Sioux Lookout water treatment plant reviewed the compliance data entry requirements, and daily operational spreadsheets were adjusted a bit so that there's a flag for the operators. If that box hasn't been filled in by the end of the day, it's bright red, and they should notice that something's amiss. I maybe can pause there. If anybody has any questions about the Sioux Lookout report, we could maybe address those now, or I can just move on and complete the Hudson portion.
See some questions. So Councillor Timpson?
Yeah, I was just looking at the total cost of repairs, which if you take out the Front Street and Hillcrest and the booster station, it comes to about 200,000, which would be sort of, I guess, routine repairs. Is that fairly standard for a system of this size?
I can talk to that. I know that this year's budget might be a little bit more than that. We were gonna discuss with the municipality. There is a lot of stuff that we're not aware that's being put in there, so we don't have it in the report. For instance, the membranes were purchased from the municipality. So the cost of that was all gone through you guys. So we don't really know what the total amount was. We didn't pay it. It didn't go through us, let's say. Same with all of the distribution repairs and additions that you're doing. None of that goes through us. So some of the stuff that isn't in the report could be sitting on one of your desks, but we don't know what it is. So it might be a better idea that we get together and we come up with figures before these reports are put out, and then we can have an accurate number. But the number of 200,000 would probably be just for inside the Sioux Lookout plant itself. And that would be fairly normal. This year, for instance, we're fixing some tanks so that there's 55,000 in there just for that. Some years we purchase, we're doing a PLC change out at the water treatment plant this year. That's $100,000. So just those two items there will bring it probably up over what we have in there for this year. So
yeah, I was just curious that was probably standard for this system. And I looked at Hudson was approximately 100,000, and
well, Hudson, we also had repairs and engineering work done that was because of a non-compliance that happened last year. So we had a little bit more there done.
again,
Yeah, and there's always something, everything's getting older. So there's things that we're trying to keep up with, saying, okay, this looks like it's needing to be repaired. So some years are a lot higher than others. That's all.
Any further questions on the sewer vote system? Seeing nothing, so why don't you go on to Hudson?
All right. Once again, section 2 in the report gives you a brief description of the system and the chemicals used. In the case of Hudson, water from Lost Lake is treated using coagulation, flocculation, and a sand filtration process, and both UV and chlorine disinfection. In 2023, again, no significant changes to the treatment process or the treatment chemicals. However, as Dan alluded to, a request to amend the drinking water works permit was submitted, and that was approved just back in January, February, so that the CT or the chlorine contact time can be provided with chlorine only if needed. So right now, we talk about disinfection in terms of contact time, and previously, the way the permit was written, we could only meet that with UV, even though we were chlorinating after the UV. So it's been amended such that if we lose the UV, then we can still consider the contact time or the disinfection provided by the chlorine, so that we're not put in a non-compliant situation sort of arbitrarily, I guess you could say. And again, section 2 also includes that list of major expenses as well. Section 3 summarizes the results of the water quality monitoring. In 2023, all the microbiological and chemical results were below the drinking water quality standards, and there were no adverse water quality incidents in Hudson in 2023. So there were also no lead exceedances and no confirmed harmful algal blooms in Hudson. Great water going there. Sorry. All right, yeah, so in terms of regulatory compliance, there was one inspection by the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks initiated during the reporting period. The inspection was initiated on July 11th with a final inspection rating of 87%. There were 3 incidents of non-compliance identified. These were all related to one event, which occurred in 2022. So because of the inspection timelines, this is an event that I think we did actually already discuss at the council meeting in March of 2023. But when the inspector came on site, there were 3 non-compliances related to that event. So I am not sure how much you want me to read into it, or if we can get Dan to answer your questions on that. Just give me 1 second here. Yeah. So the operator manipulated the UV valves, sent a small amount of water to the clear well, which hadn't been disinfected with UV. It was worth noting that primary disinfection was achieved through chlorination. So this is where that amendment to the Drinking Water Works permit came into play after the fact. If we had had that amendment prior to this happening, this would have been a non-issue. So, but because of how the permit was written, primary disinfection was expected to be achieved with that UV, and it wasn't for that small amount of water. As a result, the design flaw was fixed that allowed it to occur in the first place. Operators completed a walked and clean water course, which focused on attaining water quality compliance. And in 2023, we worked to amend the municipal drinking water license to include chlorination as an approved alternative to UV for primary disinfection. So,
I can just say that we also added valves into the plant so that issue can't happen again. So the PLC system won't let it run water through if there's no UV on.
All in all, a great year for both systems. Safe water being provided to all of the folks in Sioux Lookout and Hudson. Some recommended priorities for council to consider would be potentially distribution lining or replacement in Sioux Lookout. Distribution renewal or lining or replacement. The condition of the mains can contribute to the formation of those THMs and HAAs that we were talking about at the beginning of this presentation. Cast iron replacement should be prioritized, and lining is also an alternative to consider in areas where there's maybe not excessive breaks that would justify changing the lines. Inclusion of an in-distribution chlorine residual analyzer at the new booster station that we understand is going in next year. Continuous monitoring equipment can be used to monitor free chlorine residuals in the distribution system. So it's another option to ensure that we don't have a non-compliance related to those chlorine residuals. And again, the Sioux Lookout water tower upgrades, which I understand are potentially going forward this year anyways. That's all I have for you. If you have any additional questions for me or for Dan, I'm certainly here to answer them.
Yeah, I think a question on the Hudson system, Councillor Van Breda.
Yeah, so my question is that my belief was that anytime water is released that's not disinfected as it should be, that a notice has to go out to everybody using the systems. I mean, 36 meters squared, it's not a lot, but it's still a noticeable amounts. Was there, like, what's the order so that if any water is released, that we know about it?
So, when this event happened, there was a discussion with the Ministry of Environment and the Northwest Health Unit. And we have to follow what the health unit says. So if the health unit tells us that we have to, if there's a community-wide boil water advisory issued, it would be issued by, not by us. So we only issue a boil water advisory if there's a water main break here and I have to shut it down and can't isolate it, leave pressure going in it, that kind of stuff. So I can put a boil water on this section, but when it comes to a full community, then it's issued by the Northwest Health Unit.
Okay.
So, yeah.
My understanding is that the water was disinfected by chlorine, but it
Yes.
wasn't.
As Jessica stated, if we would have had the amendment done at the time, we wouldn't even have talked about it. We would have just said, okay, well, here's our CT value. So we have a calculator, we calculate it out. And here's our contact time and our chlorine and our flows and blah, blah, blah. And it spits us out a number. And there's a number that we have to meet. And as long as we meet that, we're good.
Any further, Councilor Timpson?
It's on page 11, 3.7 environmental discharge sampling. The TSS results, milligrams per liter, are sort of, they're all quite different. There's 283, and then 3 months later, 3,930, and then 22.6, and then 5.8. What's that all about? Why such a difference in the numbers?
You know, on the right page, so
Page 11, 3.7.
of the Hudson system or the Sioux system? Hudson. Yeah.
I'm not looking at that, Jessica. I don't have a laptop in front of me.
Yeah,
right now.
I'll have to pull it up. Just give me 1 second here.
It could be raw water, right? I'm not sure.
I just have to get out of my presentation for a second here. This is, sorry, the Hudson report.
Yes.
Page 11.
Oh, this is for the so this is Jessica, this is for the backwash water that goes out to the field.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's a system that when the filters get have run for a while at 50 hours each one, but then it does a backwash and it stirs all the filter up and it comes out really messy water. It goes into a tank and then it's supposed to be coming through and settling in that tank and then it goes into a field. So those are the results of that. And so the way they make us do those samples is we take one sample at the beginning of the event, one sample at the middle of the event, and one sample at the end of the event, and we mix the three of them together. On some samples, and depending on how high the level is in the tank, it changes as it goes out the door into the field. The field was designed so. Originally, I don't want to get into a big thing, but originally it was designed to go down into the lake. And then the CNR wouldn't let us go under the railway tracks, wouldn't let us open or dig it to go under there. So we had to put a field in. They threw a field in at the time. And I don't think it was the proper system that went in there at the time, but it's been running for, 20 years now. And I've actually talked to Brian and Matt about this, about bringing an engineer in to look at different options in Hudson for treating the water that's coming out of the backwash. Could be a different system, a belt press like we use at the sewage plant or something like that. And then we would get rid of the solids there because the field is eventually going to fail. It's going to be plugged up. It's getting that way already after 20 years of use. So we are looking at it and trying to figure out what we could do. If that was the case, we probably wouldn't have to sample for this anymore. We would just,
What are the difference in the numbers?
Oh, it's- so-
28 and high, 3,900.
yeah, I can't answer that, actually, but it does happen like that. I think if we look back, it's probably like that every year, but it could be just the way the guy takes the sample, or if there was two backwashes that went off close together, there could be more in the tanks to, this doesn't go into the environment or anything. It goes into a tank and then into a field. There's no drinking water involved with it. It's similar to our, what we use for, getting rid of the sludge at the sewage plant here in Sioux.
I noticed that the Silica one is 52. That's 52% capacity and Hudson at 21 capacity. So given the development that we're pushing forward here, is there any way of predicting when we might have to have a new plant or expand this one?
That's a very good question. I think that it should be looked at. I've been running this membrane plant in Sioux since it was new. I've always had issues with the capacity, the rated capacities of the plant. If you look into it, the winter time, the capacity goes down a little bit more because the water is more dense, harder to go through the filters. I've had discussions with engineers over the capacity of it. 5,200 cubic meters a day, and we're running at about 2,000 right now. When the filters get fouled up, it's harder to make water through them. So it is something that we should look at. And your plant was built in 2000, so it's 25 years old almost now. There could be upgrades that could be done to it. There is a few things that maybe bringing in an engineer to look at the whole scope of it.
Typically, the ministry will start to get after you if you hit like 80%. Before that, they're expecting the system owners to be sort of watching these numbers and knowing, what their expectations are for growth within their communities and that sort of thing, and make their judgments from there. But at that 80% point, then the ministry's head turns and says, "Hey, what are you doing there?"
I think that, and also I think that the daily flows at the Sioux plant haven't changed much in the last 15 years. Probably they've always been the same.
Yeah.
If anything, right now, when we did a leak detection test 10 years ago or so, we found a big leak by the post office and a couple leaks here and there around town that they fixed, and it dropped it down to about 1,700 cubic meters a day. And right now we're running some days at 1,900. So we're not far off that mark. That's the lowest I ever saw. It was after that was done. We do have quite a few bleeders running in town that could also, if we had new lines in those areas, we could take those bleeders out. We wouldn't be throwing water away, basically.
I think the numbers Councillor Timpson was referring to were the maximums for like a 1 day. I think the plant in Hudson was 12% and Sioux plant is 40% on average.
Yeah, just
Yeah, and then there was the 1 days where they were.
long term, whenever we,
Yeah, well, for sure.
just for 1 day, or is that sort of?
What was the number you were looking at?
Right, it was 52 for Sioux and 20.
Well, that's a percentage. Okay. Yeah, like Hudson's again, when we first built the plant in Hudson, we didn't have any treatment at all. We built the plant, we put it in, we started running it, and what we found was that there wasn't enough water going through Hudson. People weren't using it and there's no meters in Hudson to meter their water. So the water, when it sits in the clear well, sits in there a long time, and the chlorine starts dissipating by the time it comes out the other side. So we were thinking, oh, we're going to have issues with this, because they were looking at metering the whole town at the time. And I was thinking, well, if they meter everybody, maybe everybody slows their use down and then our water sits in the plant more. We might have to chlorinate again because because it's UV, we don't need the chlorine in the plant, but we need it in the distribution, going into the distribution system. But that was a worry of ours and now it doesn't happen, but there's also lots of issues in Hudson, and I've been discussing this with Brian, people using bleeders in the wintertime. They're turning bleeders right up that are putting like 8, 10, 15 cubic meters a day through the system. We can see the flows go up overnight. We had one that we found this winter, and it was once we get over 100 cubic meters a day in Hudson, we're usually we should be at about 50 or 60. But with all these people using bleeders, and we don't know if they're turning them off in the summer, they have to run through their septic fields, so they're basically ruining their septic fields by doing it. So that's another issue in Hudson where the flows are varying there quite a bit. The leaks are hard to find there, but people are using water like that. So I don't know if that answered your question or not, but
Just thinking in terms of future development,
well, I think Hudson, I don't think you'd have to worry about Hudson right now.
yeah.
Sioux Lookout, yeah, I would say that it should be looked at. What would we do if we needed more, and what kind of development do you have, and how many more connections will you be making, and that kind of stuff.
Anything further, council? Well, I think that would, that draws an end to your presentation, Jessica.
Yes.
Thank you very
Thanks for
much.
having me.
All in all, I think a pretty clean report.
Not too bad.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. Take care.
Jessica.
Yeah, once if I may, I did have a resolution here for council's consideration. Please, the council receives the 2023 annual drinking water reports for the Sioux Lookout urban drinking water system and the Hudson drinking water system.
Moved by Councilor Timpson, seconded by Councilor Van Breda. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And our next delegation is the community risk assessment initial council presentation. The presenter is Terry Gervais, Community Risk Assessment Project Lead for the Lumex Group, and CIO. So I turn this to Jeremy to introduce. Yep. Jeremy, go on first.
I can, through you, Mayor Lawrence. Terry is here with the presentation.
He's just getting connected there. There we go.
Yeah, it's okay.
Go ahead, Chief.
Well, this is Mr. Terry Gervais of the Lumex Group, our contractor for the community risk assessment, and he's got the initial council presentation for you tonight. Still.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Give me 1 second. I grab your presentation. Thank you for the opportunity to spend a few minutes tonight, just talk about the community risk assessment. Your worship, you can see the council presentation okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So tonight, I just want to take a few minutes. We've got a few slides just to talk about the community risk assessment, and I'm sure the chief has talked about it before when you were going through your RFP process. But we like the opportunity to come to council at the start of the process so that we can kind of start talking a little bit how the process is going to go before you get the final presentation. So some of you may know about our company. We are a North American company. We do have services across Canada and the US. Our goals is to inspire positive change and help communities and make organizations safer. We have 2 people assigned to this project, myself as the project lead. I am the Vice President of Government Services for the Lumex Group. I've been with them since 2016. My background has all been municipal world. I was in the municipal fire services for 36 years before I left in 2016. Grace McDonough is one of our community risk assessment specialists. Grace has been in the fire and life safety business for over 25 years, has done a lot of work on community risks and fire and life safety plans. As probably council knows, just a reminder, so, you know, in July 1st of 2019, the province of Ontario passed regulation 378-18, requiring all municipalities to complete a community risk assessment by July 1st, 2024. Your community risk assessment, what it does, it really identifies and examines the risks in your community from a fire services perspective. So you have your emergency management plan, and that has a hazardous identification risk assessment in it. That's the HIRA. This community risk assessment is a little bit different. So when we some of the processing is the same, but what it does is it looks at the risks from a fire services perspective, not kind of as the whole kind of community like your emergency management does. And you'll see that when we present the risks, you'll see there's some different risks in there that you might think you know, should be there, but there will be in your emergency management plan. It's a great tool to help municipalities to make decisions on your fire protection based on the unique needs, circumstances of the communities and the risk in your communities. So in years past, we used to think of what the risks were in communities, and we would come to council as senior leaders and say we need this, we need that, we need that, because we think this is a risk. What this risk assessment tool is going to do is actually quantify what your risks actually are. There's 9 geographic profiles that we must go through by the regulation. So that's another thing. This regulation actually put out the framework and the matrix of how we actually conduct this community risk assessment. So there's 9 profiles that we have to look in your community. We'll be engaging with the fire chief and some of your other municipal staff to help get the data that is required for these profiles. So when we talk about risks, we really look at risks from both a likelihood and a consequence levels. And we all know that the likelihood might be great, but the consequence is low, or the other way around, it might be not great in the likelihood, but the consequences might be high. And that's kind of how we kind of get our scoring levels. The OFM states that the fire department should use their professional judgment along with historical data. So that's the other really unique thing about the community risk assessment. We'll be looking at your data. We're not looking at data in the rest of the other municipalities in Southern Ontario or the other ones in Northern Ontario. We do have to do a comparison with the province, but in basically the data that we're looking at is your data, and the chief and I have already started with our discussions on getting some of that data. The OFM defines the consequences, the potential losses or negative outcomes that could result in an emergency. It'll allow, like I said, it allows the municipality to understand what your risks truly are in your community from a fire services perspective. And after we identify the fire and life safety risks in the communities, you can then determine what risks need to be addressed and how best to manage those. And it allows, if an emergency occurs and a community has not established adequate response protocols, there could be consequences in that, including, you know, damage or retribution. So our approach to this is, first off, we select our project team, and I introduce you to Grace and myself. There is a whole group of people on the team that we have that do fire master plans and community risk assessments. We have 13 people. On top of that, we have a quality assurance group that their role is to make sure what I write fits into the format. We also double check that make sure it meets the regulation, that we're not missing anything as far as the regulation. We're going to start collecting data. We've already done that. We've provided the chief with a fairly extensive list of what data we need for the community risk assessment. We'll have stakeholder engagements. The CAO and the chief and I have met together once, and the chief and I have already met, and we'll be meeting on a regular basis. I am planning on attending or going to Sioux Lookout in the second week of April, around the 17th week of April. One of the things that's really important to us is that we get to be in the community, so we have a good feel and understanding of the community. So we're going to spend a day to day and a half with the chief. We're going to go around your community. We're going to look at risk from the fire chief's perspective. So that's another part of the process. And then obviously we present the scope of the process to council, which is what we're doing tonight. How we develop the CRA is we start analyzing the data. We look at best practices. We look at the 9 profiles that have been set out by the province. We'll develop the CRA and complete the community risk profiles, and we'll develop risk mitigation strategies. And when we do all that, once we have the document ready, we sit down with the chief, we provide the draft document. There's a matrix I'm going to show you here in a second. We go through the whole matrix because really your chief is the one that knows your municipality, and obviously the rest of the municipal staff know the municipality way better than us. So we really need their input on when we start developing these matrices that are we're hitting the right marks. I'm not going to go through all of these. This is just a sample of that when I talked about the likelihood and consequences. So we don't make the numbers up. This rare, unlikely, possible, likely, and almost certain. Either you had a call or you didn't have a call to that type of risk. And if you did, was it between the 5 and 15 years since the last incident, then that becomes unlikely. So that's on the kind of likelihood scores, and that's all been designed in the process by the province. The consequences is exactly the same. It goes from insignificant to catastrophic. Again, we can't make this up. There's very set criteria in this. And what this does, it allows us to make sure we're comparing the risks on a very level playing field. We're looking at it. It's not skewed. So, we're doing it on the data in your community, and we're looking at data. We're trying to get as much data as we can from the last 5 years. We're not just looking at one blip in the process. So this chart, this risk matrix chart, there's a whole matrix and there's all the scoring that goes, and you'll see it in the final document. But this basically sets where your risks land. So if it's rare and insignificant, it becomes low. If it's catastrophic and almost certain, then of course it becomes high and kind of slides anywhere in routine. And we'll be grading your risks in this process like this. So then what do we do with them? We start, we develop risk treatment plans. So we find the risk in your community, and then we recommend risk treatment plans and how you can help manage that risk. They're created using evidence-based approach that clearly defines the problem. So there's a very set questions that we ask on the risk, whether they can be managed in certain ways. And again, that's been set out by the province. The risk treatment plan considers the potential outcomes of the proposed actions, assesses options, provides recommendations for addressing that risk. They may include training. It may include service delivery agreements, resource allocation, or service level changes. Could be part of the risk treatment plans. It could be something as simple as, create more public education programs for this type of risk for your community. And with that, Your Worship, that's all the presentation that I have. It's short and sweet.
Thank you very much. Council, questions, comments? Looks like we're eager to see the report. Councillor Timpson has a question.
Of course. I really like your matrix. That's really good. Thank you.
Is there a sector that doesn't deal in acronyms? It's amazing. We had our water report before that, acronyms and almost the crossover. CRA is of course the Canada Revenue Agency, which
Yeah. So Your Worship, this is the good report. Not if the community risk assessments coming your way, it's good. If it's a CRA, it may not be as good, right? So
very good. We look forward to proceeding. Chief, any comments?
Through Mayor Lawrence, no comments from me at this time. Me and Terry are working together. We have the plan for the site visit next month, and I've already started compiling the information that they need.
Thank you very much, Terry and Chief.
Thank you.
There's nothing to receive here. No, thank you. Delegations, and we'll go back to items requiring separate discussion. Item 7.1, that council approves a second food cycle pilot program, and further, the council directs staff to prepare a funding proposal to NOHFC to undertake a curbside pickup compost pilot program in partnership with Rock Front Family Farm, the Circular Innovation Council, and Kenora Compost Fund. And further, the council directs staff to provide a support letter in support of Rock Front Family Farms fundraising efforts to develop their rural property to expand vegetable production and process community organic waste. We need a mover and a second to put that on the table. Moved by Councillor Van Breda, seconded by Councillor Timpson. Discussion starting with Councillor Costco.
So reviewing the financials on this, so it's $56,050. So where is that cost coming
CAO, sorry, CAO, whoever.
This would be in addition to this year's budget.
So this would be taxpayers, directly to taxpayers. So basically 0.5% almost of taxation.
Council. Councillor Van Breda.
Sorry, it's here, NOHFC rural enhancement funding is 22,500. But like, this would be, if I'm wrong, tell me, this should be a return on investment because we're saving, we're saving waste going into the dump, which will prolong the life of the dump, you know, giving us more bang for our buck because the dump won't be as full as fast, right?
Actually, Councillor Van Breda, we operate a landfill, not a dump.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, is this a comment or a question?
Yeah, so I guess two questions. So it says here, NOHFC funding, 22,500. So that'll be taken off of the $56,050 into this would be a return on investment because we're saving this waste going into the landfill, which is essentially saving us money through the long, right?
Through your Mayor Lawrence, that's correct. And the municipal contribution is actually 16,750, not the full project cost of 56,750.
16,750.
16,750. Yes.
Councillor Timpson.
Yeah, I think in terms of the challenges we're facing with taxes just this year, not this year, but we have to look at sustainable ways of spending less and bringing in money. And this is a way that we are going to be spending less in the long run. And I fully supported 16,000 going into it. I think it's a really good initiative to not only preserve the planet from CO2 and emissions, but to keep our taxes down in the future by extending the life of the landfill.
Further comments, council? I see none. Yeah, I'm torn. I think it's $16,000, which is another $16,000, but I also see it as Councillor Timpson has just expressed in terms of it's short-term gain, short-term pain, long-term gain, that to extend the life of the landfill. And landfills are extremely expensive to develop. So it's a push and a pull for me on this one, but I'm supportive of this because of the long-term benefits. Any further comments, council? So the motion is on the floor that was read. Sorry, Councillor Belsfield.
I noticed that there's commercial units. So these commercial units, you wouldn't just be selling them to the commercial organizations in town. They're all subsidized. Is that correct?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, there's actually two opportunities for commercial businesses to participate. So Food Cycler would have discounted units available. If we run a program, then our local businesses would be eligible for a 20% discount on commercial units. But in addition to that, Rockfront Family Farm is also looking at being able to have sufficient capacity in order to do some commercial composting as well. So there could be two ways that we could have some commercial businesses participating.
So for the 16,000, would like Fresh Market, Ben Yow, and the other grocery stores be participating?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, there's only one business that we know of right now that is interested in participating. But yes, if we made this contribution, then we would be supporting Rockfront Family Farm to expand their capacity and be able to include commercial composting as part of their pilot.
Concern and question, first question is, what do we lose from revenue at the landfill? Landfill, for a reason, when it's waste like that, it tends to regenerate itself a little quicker. And the composter itself, I'm just worried that it could end up in storage like a bread maker at some point. It's something that people have to, you know, keep doing year after year after year. And I'm worried that it's just one of those fads that may die at some point.
Councilor Thompson first, and Councilor Leggett.
Is to say that we're just approving an application, which we may not have money for. Correct. We're just being asked to approve the application at this point, so it's not certain. In response to what you're saying, what's your goal? I mean, I would love to have one of these because it saves me from having to walk through the snow to my compost bin and throw it in there. And, you know, I end up just throwing it in the garbage sometimes if it's snow's too deep. So I don't think it'd be a fad. It would catch on because people will save money on their, they'll save money in their garbage tags. So I think it's a good initiative.
Councilor Leggett.
I didn't support the initial one, and I'm not going to support this one. I do believe in composting, but I also believe that people should pay their fair share and buy these outright if they want them, not for the municipality to be subsidizing them. So again, I won't be voting for this one as well, because I didn't vote for the first one.
Anything further, Council? Just let's clarify the resolution. We're prepare a funding proposal. Are we actually committing to the financing at this time?
To Mayor Lawrence, so the initiative will not work without the funding, so it will be contingent on success of that funding, is my understanding. Otherwise, the entire cost would be the municipalities to bear.
But if the funding isn't approved, then the project doesn't proceed. Is that correct? When I say not the municipal funding, but the NOHFC funding.
Except for the food cycler pilot, because that would be separate, and that subsidy would come just from the municipality's funding and wouldn't be contingent on an NHFC.
Councilor Timpson.
They too, and there are lots of people who have made full price too. I certainly would.
Mayor Lawrence, of the community members that did express interest and go on the waiting list, to my knowledge, not one of them proceeded with a full sale. I did direct several of them to the website that they were able to access a unit at full cost, and I don't think any of them did, although we have more than 40 people waiting on a waiting list and are still receiving inquiries.
Councilor Leggett.
Yeah, in the report, it said something about people, only 17% of people would be willing to actually separate the organics. So who would be separating the organics if we went ahead with this program? It's going to be up to the municipality staff or wherever the compost would be, do that, or?
Mayor Lawrence, that 17% was in relation to separating the organic waste at the dump, like to dispose of themselves at the dump if there was a separate organic waste area in the dump. So only 17% were willing to do that, but over 81% of residents would participate in curbside waste compost pickup if it were available.
81% of the respondents.
Correct. Lots of numbers.
Wait a minute. Anything further, Council? All right, so I'm gonna call.
I make one more,
So, thank you.
just one thing to add, just today, actually, Rockfront Family Farm and I had a very interesting meeting with a processing unit that he's looking at. And if he were to go with that company, he could actually process this compost and have a saleable product. So we're looking at increased revenues in that way. They've been using that product in some other test pilots in other farms that increase production by 40%. So he would have a significant potential increase in yields as well. And the unit we were looking at could do up to 2 metric tons per week is what he would be able to process from local businesses and local residences. So I do see that there would be additional economic benefit potential as well.
I just don't want the municipality to be the middle person in this. I'd rather Mr. Burnley deal directly with all the people that wish to compost, and hopefully that they would direct all that to you. And then you can get the new machinery that you need, and I do support what you're doing. But at this time, there's some financial constraints for myself personally as a counselor that I cannot be adding anything else to it for this year.
Councilor Blaine.
I guess you say I'm the opposite. I feel like for 16,800, we're getting a lot more in economic contributions, way more than 16,000. So I feel like this is a good thing. This is definitely a return on investment that we need. So if it's going to make our landfill last longer, if it's going to create that economic kind of boost, I'm for it.
And we also have to think about the fact that we are going to be reducing the methane that's going into the environment that is creating climate emergencies. And I think that sooner or later, all municipalities are going to have to be taking steps like this. Let's not forget the environmental benefits of this and introducing getting the idea into the population. So we are reducing our greenhouse gases, addressing the climate emergency.
Anything further, council? Call the vote then. All in favor? I see 3 in favor, so the motion is defeated. That's a tie vote, even with extensions, it would be a defeat. Motion defeated. 7.2, the council awards the contract for the arena roof shingle replacement to Rosiak Carpentry Limited for $115,512.45 plus the HST. And further, the council authorizes passing of bylaw number 26-24, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and the clerk to execute a contract between the corporation of the municipality of Sioux and Rosiak Carpentry Limited in the amount of $115,512.45 plus HST. Moved by Councilor Bone, seconded by Councilor Pasco. Discussion starting with Councilor Van Breda.
I just have a quick question about that. So since here, all costs will be paid through long-term debt, is there no way that we can get into the building reserve for this?
CIO,
Email once I'd like to refer them to the treasurer.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, currently we don't have the funds in the building reserve in order to support this project.
Is there any reserve fund left, or it has to be just through the building reserve?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, we could use the infrastructure reserve fund in order to support this project if council wishes. Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I'm not.
Which way we go, like where we grab the money from?
Well, through you, Mayor Lawrence, if we were to take out a long-term debt on this project over the course of 10 years, which most likely we would take the loan out for, it would cost more because of the interest rate at the current moment. So taking it directly from the reserve fund, then council would be saving money by not paying the interest on the loan over 10 years.
There you go. Reserve sits at over 2 million right now.
It's through you, Mayor Lawrence, currently at around 1.9.
Is there a definition for what's infrastructure? Is it defined in any way? And
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, currently not at this time, no. Anything that pertains to infrastructure that comes from taxation.
the broad term, CAO, yeah.
Few minutes, yeah, so, you know, the intent, is that, the building reserve would be built, forgive the pun, up sufficiently so that these types of projects could be, funded or at least partially supported through, the building reserve. I would caution council to, about using the infrastructure reserve, for this particular project, given the vast number of other types of infrastructure projects that are currently in place and are coming down the pike. 1.9 million doesn't go very far. So I would just ensure council's aware of that reality.
Yeah, the infrastructure reserve would be the sewer and water infrastructure. Primarily, we have a road reserve, right?
Yes, 3 million, we do have a road reserve, but again, there are the sewer and water portion of major infrastructure projects will be funded from the utilities reserve. The infrastructure reserve is used for the surface and ancillary works for those types of projects. So as well as for things like, you know, I will elaborate. But yeah,
It could be used for us to, if senior government eventually comes out with grants and projects, it could be, our contribution could come from those reserves, yeah. Councillor Van Breda.
So if we were to take $150,502.45, would the interest on that be more than $10,800 over 10 years?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I didn't look at the long-term debt
If you could,
finances
yeah.
on this. I'm not comfortable guessing.
I thought this kind of fun, just. Councillor Gibson.
I was under the impression that this would be covered by insurance. Said that you had an estimate from an insurance broker.
Yeah, so through you, Mayor Lawrence, we're still finalizing items with the past contractor, which is being paid through the insurance along with all of our other projects that are being paid through the insurance. Those costs have already depleted our insurance, and this is over and above all that.
Council, any further? So currently it stands that this project would be approved through the through long-term, if we approve it as long-term debt. And I think one councillor's floated the idea of reserve. Is there a straw vote? Is there any take up on amending the motion on that? Mayor, well, I guess we could. Fair enough, CIO can ask that. Yep. How many are in favor of keeping it in the long-term debt as it's written? No amendment required. Is there anything further on this? And I will call the vote on the arena roof shingle replacement. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay. Item 7.3. The council authorizes the passing of bylaw number 29-24, being a bylaw to establish the water and wastewater service rates and charges for the production, treatment, storage, and distribution of water and or wastewater in the municipality of Sioux, and to repeal bylaw number 19-22. Moved by Councillor Costco, seconded by Councillor Van Breda, and start the discussion with Councillor Timpson.
I think we approved this, but just given the strain on the taxpayers this time, is there any way that we can maybe do this in a more graduated way than 3.8% right away? I just it's just going to be difficult for people this year with raising our water rates as well. I guess the other question is too, does it, raising the water rates, is it just, do people then use less? You just get more income from it.
To say that I think it's risky to defer it because we've heard about possible upgrades. There's always upgrades needed to sewer and water, and I think we need to keep current with the funding. It's 3.8%. It's still, I always maintain that our drinking water is one of the best deals we've got going on the planet. It's the cleanest water on surface water on the planet, and it's we get it. Clean water in your house, and we take away the dirty water and we treat it. It's a good deal. Councilor Van Green.
My question to you, so it will, let's talk about urban, Sioux Lookout, we'll go up 3.8%. We're still talking about the water tower too, how we're gonna pay that off, right? I know that's not in this right now, if I'm not over.
It's a future project.
So I'm saying, if I was an urban Sioux Lookout, I'm thinking, I'm gonna get hit 3.8%, and I'm gonna be hit again with that water tower, taxes to pay that off. So is there a way we can say, 3.8, and maybe you should budget for the water tower costs too going up? I'm out of order, you can shut me down.
I think I'll let the CAO start today.
It's you, so, and Treasurer, correct me if I'm wrong, but the water tower costs will also be funded through the utilities program. So the water tower upgrade or replacement won't be funded through general taxation. It will also be funded through water and sewer rates. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the there's the water tower project. There's the Pelican Park project that is out for tender right now. There's the third CTU for the sewage treatment plant. Like all of these things are coming in very, very short order, and they are all going to be multi-million-dollar projects. So the risk in deferring is, we're already making recommendations for a 2-year increase in 2024 and 2025. If we were to defer 2024, staff would then be recommending in 2025 that we're at 9% for wastewater and almost 8% for water. So it's when it hits the pocketbook, if you will. It's just a matter of sort of deferring things, and eventually those increases. So instead of an increase of 63 and 68 in 2024, annual increases 63 and 68 in 2024 and 2025. We'd be looking at double that just in 2025 alone, and then further increases in 26, 27, and so on and so forth. So,
Thank you, Councilor Labor.
Yeah, for myself, I would prefer to be paying the extra $5 a month. Cover that, and then whatever happens for next year. Again, as CAO has pointed out, we do have some big projects coming up that hopefully there'll be some funding for, but if not, but things that the municipality doesn't need. So we need to keep on top of these things. I know for the longest time when I first started here that there was no increases at all for 10 years. So which set us back where we had to, well, we need to increase now. So we need to keep up with it.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Everyone's suffering. We understand that, but pay the $5.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah, I'm just trying to think. I'm like, okay. So I want to know prop taxes are going up, water going up, and we got to pay for the water treatment center. If you live in an urban, so the public should know that with the carbon tax going up April 1st, so no one, shower.
You're getting off topic now. We live in a house that's 113 years old. The municipality is our house, and we'll live in it forever. It's not, you're not going to pay off this mortgage, and different parts of it are going to get old and need renewal. We're going to add on to it. It goes on forever. You don't just stop and say, well, we don't feel like doing it this year. It just goes on and on. Any further discussion?
It doesn't mean defer it totally. It could mean maybe you go for half of the percent 3.8% this year and just maybe next year, just depending on where we're at, increasing the gain a little bit. Doesn't mean no increase this year. Slower, what I'm saying.
My reading of the council table is that more councillors feel that you keep me up, so I'm gonna call the vote and they'll tell me. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Item 7.4. Let council awards the contract for the fitness center flooring replacements and the installation of wall padding in the gym to Caliber Sports Systems for $202,115. And further, the council authorizes the passing of bylaw number 27-24. Being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a contract between the corporation of the municipality of Sioux and Caliber Sport Systems for the fitness center flooring replacement and the wall padding in the gym. Moved by Councilor Lego, seconded by Councilor Costco. Starting the discussion with Councilor Costco.
My question is around, I know that the bids are quite a bit different. Some are doing part of the job, some are doing the whole job. But I noticed that Home Hardware's bid for the portion of the job that they're bidding is very reasonable. And they are local and they are a trusted entity. And since we've had a bit of lack of success with trusted people, that I just really am comfortable using, someone who's in town that has a lot of integrity that we know. Is there any way that we can use Home Hardware and see whether we can get the other portion done at the same costs as the other bit?
How do you want to direct this?
If you may, one follow is to be manager of development services, right? Service right to have comments.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I guess ultimately it's council's decision. Just keep in mind that's 150 just for the gym. Doesn't include wall padding, doesn't include the cardio room and the weight room. Yeah, so just based on the pricing for those items, like the Caliber sports system was 100,000 just for the floor in the gym, or the floor and the padding. And we have reviewed references for Caliber sports floors, and they did a bunch of work in Fort Francis. And I have personally spoke with the public works manager down there who dealt with this project, and he spoke very highly of them. And the other references came in what was good as well.
Anything you were good at?
Not particularly. I think the manager of development services responded well, but we look at total cost of doing the project, and there are also advantages to sourcing a project of this nature to one contractor, one supplier. It does make the project management end of it a little bit easier and more manageable. Staff also understands and values the contributions of local businesses in Sioux Lookout, and I think when we can and when we feel it's in the municipality's financial interest, we do try to support and purchase local. My concern would be in this case that the total project would be significantly more than the 202,000 that Caliber Sports has quoted, and I think you probably agree that that's likely the end result. So so not that it can't be done, just I think something to consider.
I'm fine with that, but I just found the way the quotes came in, they were all different, so it was very confusing. So it was hard for us to compare to see how things lined up, because each quote was some proportion, some were all. We didn't know what the other costs were. The original one wasn't broken down; it was a whole unit. So as long as you've checked the references and that you're confident that this company is a good company, you've reached out and done your networking, I'm okay with it.
When you called for the call to tendering, did you put it out as one project?
Through Mayor Lawrence, it was put out for just the gym floor at first, but then with this funding opportunity, we included as an addendum the padding and the cardio room and weight room. We did receive some quotes after the final day, and so unfortunately we missed the timeline, but they were again well above.
But the quote, with the addendum process, you were asking for a price on the full job.
Yes.
So my question would be, in my experience, I wouldn't have reported on the incomplete bids because they're incomplete. They don't form it. They're not a comparison. It creates confusion. I would have just said they're not, they didn't meet the tender requirements. So it's just my take on it. I think it would have led to a little less confusion at the council table. Because I don't really think we have an option. You put out a tender and they provide an incomplete bid, whoever did. You have to look at the other. I think you open yourself to risk by doing that of somebody saying, well, I provided a complete bid. They didn't meet you at the lawyer's office. Councilor Boone.
Where is the funding at? We received the funding to move forward with this project, or?
Through Mayor Lawrence, and we don't have the funding as of yet. Oh, it's in the report.
How long are we gonna wait?
Through Mayor Lawrence, the staff request for the following is funding is approved, staff request the funding approval transfer revenue from the infrastructure reserve $15,915 to cover some of the, maybe you should explain this.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, the application was sent in and we were notified that the project can't start until after July 10th. So we're hoping that the municipality would be notified prior to that. That's why we've kind of asked within the report. So just in case the municipality isn't notified until, let's say, sometime in July, that then the project would still keep going, even though we hadn't heard yet if the funding would be approved or denied. So the intent is that staff is requesting that as this time, the project move forward. If the funding is approved, then the funding would be applied to the project. And then if the funding was denied, then the project would keep going, and then the reserves would fund the full cost of the project.
If it's denied, is there any possibility of just waiting? I know I get this project done in the summer. See if there's gonna be another round of funding perhaps that'll come our way.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, as of right now, we don't really have any other avenues. The best time for us to close the gymnasium and the upstairs, both rooms, is the summertime, because that's when it is used the least amount. And it will also give time for the building department to do all the maintenance work that they need to do during that time. If we didn't do it until the fall, then we would be losing revenue within the Memorial Arena.
I suspect the contractor's price is going to hold for 30 days, 60 days, and then he's no longer obliged. Is that correct?
3 Mayor Lawrence. Yeah, I don't know if it's 30 or 60, but that's typical, yes.
I have no issue moving forward the way it's been presented to us. So roll the dice, but we need to get those things done at the fitness center. So either or, it'll be paid for.
Anything further, council? I'll call the vote. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. We're on to 7.6. The council authorizes and directs staff to conduct a public survey on levels of service that may be reduced to achieve a further 1% tax reduction, $122,157 in the proposed 2024. Moved by Councillor Van Breda, seconded by Councillor Timpson. Discussion starting with Councillor Van Breda.
Yes, so for me, this is a hard no. I am not going to cut any services. If other councilors would like to, you know, that's on them. However, for me, I will never vote to cut any services. You know, I know at the last budget meeting, we talked about using the surplus, kind of bring down the 2024 tax levy. I know that there was some discussion to pretty much, like, you know, let's go through the operating budget, but to cut services, it's a hard no for me.
Understand what you said, but just to be clear, we're not voting in this one to cut services or cut 1%. We're only voting to authorize staff to undertake a survey to explore. So it's just, I'm just clarifying. I understand where your position. Councillor Constable.
I am too aggressively opposed to this, and I'm quite disappointed, actually. I felt at the past meetings that our direction was that we would look for some cost savings, and I know that repetitively, it's like we can't find cost savings, but we can find cost savings. I've actually gone through the actuals for 2022 and the actuals for 2023. And we did ask you to look at supplies, administration, and contracted services. And I'm just going to take one line, just one line from the entire operating budget and discuss that one line. Just one simple little line.
So, Councillor,
Yeah.
Just be careful where you're going with this. We are talking about.
I know, but I'm saying, like, we're saying that obviously that we can't find anything from the operating budget. So therefore, we're going to go to the public and ask for these huge cuts, which closing the arena for the entire summer, 10 weeks, taking programming from children, because there's no way we can find anything in the operating budget.
So that's what's on the table.
Yes, so I'm saying that I would like us to look at the operating budget and not do the survey, because the survey is a waste of our time. Because we can actually find cost savings from the operating budget. I'm just going to talk about the one line, supplies for the rec department, just one line. So the supplies for the rec department in 2022 at a $27,000 surplus. The supplies for the rec center in 2023 to September is at a $23,000 surplus. In the 2024 budget, supplies for the rec center are being increased by $28,000. So I think we can find savings in supply. We can find, I'm not even asking you to cut supplies, considering that there's been a surplus for 2 years. I would just say, go with status quo, and you've just saved yourself $28,500, as opposed to cutting the entire soccer program for youth. So I think that we need to say a hard no to this survey, and we need to say we need to sharpen our pencil, as people have said in the past. We need to look at our supplies, our administrative costs, and our contracted services. We need to look at those, and we need to see if we can find some small savings, which would equal these requests.
Councillor Nagle.
My recommendation would be to defer this. We don't even know what council is going to vote for yet. So we need to figure that out first, and then we could move forward with any cuts and break it down. But for now, I want to defer this to after the council votes on a percentage for an increase, and then we can go from there to see what, if anything on their list is cuttable or not cuttable. So, but we need to get that percentage voted on first before a decision should be made, in my opinion.
Councillor Timpson.
Yeah, I tend to agree that, you know, you're presenting something like this to the public, you're gonna get people slashing everything. And I don't believe we should be slashing any of these. And yet, if you ask the public and then you just ignore what they say, you know, your credibility's gone. So I would say, let's look at, where we're gonna be the end of April before we, send out any kinds of surveys. I don't even think we're gonna need a survey, although the CAO did say last meeting that it would mean cuts in services to slice anything off any sections of the budget. Okay, maybe the CAO would comment on that.
I'm going to go to Councillor Bone first.
Yeah, I just disagree with the proposals and the survey. There's other areas, there's other lines that we can explore. We have 30 days, 40 days to the next budget meeting, and when we look at the road association, we gave them $50,000 last year. Now we're asking to cut $50,000. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, we're not, there's not an ask to do that. There's a survey. Yeah.
I'm saying $56,000. Anyway, that's what I said.
So, the vote tonight is on a survey of the public regarding service level cuts. And I think in some ways, I think staff are making a point here that some at the council table may believe there's cuts that can be made in different line items. Some may not. And staff are saying if you want to go deep, then service levels are at risk. There's also a risk of if we cut the budget so far that you're exposing yourself to risk, you just have nothing to play with. But that's a discussion for the budget table, and I think what Councillor Lego said, I agree with that, and I think it was Councillor Timpson that we're not deciding at this point how deep we're cutting. That's or if we are cutting, that's for a vote. We haven't had a vote on the budget. That's coming in April, some date in April. Yeah. So this one tonight is about the asking the public about the. I appreciate the point. I think that the staff are making here. I don't think these decisions should be made by the public. I think these are hard decisions. They should be made right here at this table, if that's where we were going to go. So those decisions will come perhaps in April. We'll see. For now, I think I know the result of calling this vote, but I'm going to call the vote. All in favor? Defeated. Thank you. Oh, CAO, sorry, did you?
But just for clarification purposes, staff was not recommending any of those cuts. Staff was told to identify a further 1% and to cut from the budget. We identified potential options for that, and that's what that document was. That is not a recommendation from staff. I need that to be understood.
Understood. Thank you. 7.9. The council authorizes the transfer of $192,076.58 from utilities reserve fund to pay for the new septic truck.
Oh, that's right here.
I'm sorry, I've read the wrong. That one's already approved. Excuse me. 7.9, the council approves authorizes the passing of bylaw number 31-24, being a bylaw to approve the expenditures and transfers to and from reserves required to implement the 2024 one-time operating capital projects. Move on. Seconded by Councillor Bone. Discussion starting with Councillor Timpson.
Yeah, as I said before, I think we have to look at sustainable ways of increasing our revenue. And looking at a couple of I have in the past asked that we look at the airport and how can we gain more from the airport revenue for the taxpayers, for the whole municipality. And I look at the airport parking, they want to increase $160,000 to increase the parking. Why can't we increase the parking fee? Fewer people will use it, they'll use cabs more. Why can't we look at whether the hub could be free? I don't know if the hub does, but if some company could make regular trips to the airport, so people would use those. I just don't think that $160,000 into parking is really warranted. The other thing is $400,000 into the secure room. And I believe this is at the request of the northern communities. Well, first of all, I think we have to consult with the northern communities what the secure room looks like, so people don't feel like they're being punished before they even get on the plane. And can we negotiate some sort of arrangement with the northern that there be some contribution towards this? So we're looking at over $500,000 here that the airport would be spending. And I think we have to look at how some of the income from the airport comes back to the municipality. And I know that we gain services from them, or we provide services and gain revenue. But maybe we can make the cost of those services higher. So we can't use the airport and improvement fees apparently, but do it in another way. I mean, it's a gold mine we've got there, and I think we should be looking at how we use that coal. I mean, and everything else, we have to fix our infrastructure. And we have to include things that everybody will enjoy, like inside toilet, the garbage cans, and fix the roads. I think we have to look at the airport and how we increase our revenue there and bring that into somehow bring that into our operation.
Sioux.
Female members, I would like to suggest that this particular topic, because it does come up from time to time, I think council would benefit from an education session on airport revenues, how they work, what we're able to get, what we're not able to touch. And I think that may provide an answer and put a pin in this discussion. What I can share with council is that the airport is giving more this year than they ever have. I think we're up to about $400,000 that they're contributing to the municipality this year, which far exceeds anything they have done in the past. It's typically, treasurer, remind me, somewhere between 150 and 2, I think, is where it had been in the past. We're up to about 400 this year. The airport is now hosting and paying 100% for one of our key positions with respect to fleet. That's benefiting every department in the municipality. So I would, like to recommend that we have a separate session on airport revenues and expenses and what we're able to access and what we're not. At this point, the staff cannot support recommending that additional funds be allocated from the airport to the municipality in this fiscal year.
The ACAP funding is, any comments there? Are we good with that?
So we were awaiting to hear the ACAP funding. We just got word, and because the program was oversubscribed, our project was not selected this year. We have been advised that we will automatically put in for next year again. They're going to resubmit. They see value in our project, but unfortunately, this is another one of these programs. This one is at the federal level, where when it was initially established in the 90s, had a funding envelope of about 30 million. Well, it's now 2024. And that funding envelope hasn't increased in about 30 years. So, you know, once again, municipalities are at the mercy of insufficient investments by the other orders of government. And I won't belabor that point, sorry, but yeah, that's where we're standing on that particular initiative.
So does that would change this, the table, was presented here?
Yes, in terms of, you know, for our purposes, that project just won't proceed this year. Which is what the intent was if the funding wasn't successful.
But the line items are they're in the airport, long-term debt in the airport, reserve funds, et cetera. They're all in.
Yes, so because we will not be needing that reserve, we just won't move ahead with that particular transfer. So. Correct.
Council, further comments? Call the vote then, all in favor? Carried, thank you. And that brings us to an end of the items requiring separate discussion by Michael. Try to get there. Sorry. We have bylaws. And outside motions, there's a lot of reading here. Are you ready?
Can you hear Lawrence, me, I'll get some time for a quick health break.
Sure, we'll take a health break, then we'll come back and do, yeah, you can indicate your singing voice. 5-minute break, Council.
Thank you.
We'll resume the meeting at 7:35 PM. And we'll move on to bylaws. CAO, or your designate.
I forgot.
Yeah, next one.
Yeah. Jim Lawrence, the following bylaws are being presented for first, second, and third reading. Bylaw number 26-24, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and the clerk to execute a contract between the corporation of the municipality of Sioux and Ambrosiac Carpentry Limited in the amount of $115,512.45 plus HST. Bylaw number 27-24, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and the clerk to execute a contract between the corporation of the municipality of Sioux and Caliber Sports Systems for the fitness center flooring replacement and the wall padding gym. Bylaw number 28-24, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and the clerk to execute a contract between the corporation of the municipality of Sioux and KPE Refrigeration Inc. for the Hugh Allen Clinic heat pump RTU replacements in the amount of $93,844 plus HST. Bylaw number 29-24, being a bylaw to establish the water and wastewater service rates and charges for the production, treatment, storage, and distribution of water and wastewater in the municipality of Sioux and to repeal bylaw number 19-22. Bylaw number 30-24, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and the clerk to execute a contract between the corporation of the municipality of Sioux and Quebec Nasty Limited for the wastewater treatment plant professional project management services in the amount of $150,585 plus HST. And bylaw number 31-24, being a bylaw to approve the expenditures and transfers to and from reserves required to implement the 2024 one-time operating and capital projects.
Moved by Councilor Lego, seconded by Councilor Timpson. All in favor, carried. Thank you. No notices the motion to reconsider, but we have an outside resolution. Good, thank you.
So just a quick note on this before I read the resolution. AMO is encouraging municipalities to pass this resolution or one similar to there too. I think it's fairly explanatory, but essentially this is calling on the province to essentially revisit the responsibility for various programs and services with respect to who's responsible for what pays for it. The last time this exercise was conducted was in the mid to late 90s. And although it was promised to be a revenue neutral exercise, municipalities have since found out that we got the short end of the stick somehow. So this essentially saying it's time to go back to the drawing board. We need to look at what the province pays for and what municipalities are expected to pay for. And so it reads, AMO Resolution, Social and Economic Prosperity Review. Whereas current provincial municipal fiscal arrangements are undermining Ontario's economy, economic prosperity and quality of life. Whereas nearly a third of municipal spending in Ontario is for services in areas of provincial responsibility, and expenditures are outpacing provincial contributions by nearly $4 billion a year. Whereas municipal revenues, such as property taxes, do not grow with the economy or inflation. Whereas unprecedented population and housing growth will require significant investments in municipal infrastructure. Whereas municipalities are being asked to take on complex health and social challenges like homelessness, supporting asylum seekers, and addressing the mental health and addictions crises. Whereas inflation, rising interest rates, and provincial policy decisions are sharply constraining municipal fiscal capacity. Whereas property taxpayers, including people on fixed incomes and small businesses, can't afford to subsidize income redistribution programs for those most in need. Whereas the province can and should invest more in the prosperity of communities. And whereas municipalities and the provincial government have a strong history of collaboration, therefore be it resolved, the Council of Corporation of the Municipality of Sioux urges the province of Ontario to commit to undertaking with the Association of Municipalities of Ontario a comprehensive social and economic prosperity review to promote the stability and sustainability of municipal finances across Ontario. And be it further resolved, the Council Corporation of the Municipality of Sioux requests that a copy of the resolution be forwarded to Premier Doug Ford, MPP Paul Calendra, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, MPP Peter Bethlen-Zaddy, Minister of Finance, and to the Association of Municipalities of Ontario.
You, we just do this in the usual way of motion, the mover and a second mover. Councillor Timpson, seconder. Councillor Tosco, any discussion? I was gonna say fast as soon as you started, but all in favor, Councillor Timpson.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I support this, of course, but I would think that there's fair bit of discussion going on at Queen's Park about this very issue, and I presume that's why the impact assessments are being delayed, is that they're not gonna help you really like the taxing. How municipalities ought to be funded.
Yeah,
Anything most pressure you can put on them, better.
are you aware of anything?
Through you, Lauren, so that, you know, the rest of Ontario, I think, has been observing closely the recent support that the provincial government provides to the city of Toronto in terms of you know, uploading responsibilities for certain highways and the costs associated with that, and providing some significant provincial revenue dollars into the city of Toronto's coffers. So I think the rest of the municipalities of Ontario are looking at that and saying, what about the rest of us? And so I think that there's certainly an appetite among municipalities in Ontario to undertake this social and economic prosperity review. Whether or not the province shares the municipalities' enthusiasm for this review, I wouldn't say.
I just KSB Henry Wall copied a letter to the board today from FONOM, the equivalent of NOMA in the Northeast, the Federation of Northern Ontario Municipals Association. It's the Northeast, and they have written a letter to Premier Doug Ford and many others asking for the establishment, I think, well, let's call it a task force on mental health addictions and the impact on municipalities, the need to review systems, etc. So there's pressure coming from various directions. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Council reports. Councillor Van Breda.
It's been a good month. So February 26th, we had our TRC community meeting. So we had it over the lunch break from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. I think that was really good. We are making progress on a few projects, which is really nice. I think having it during lunch was a good time too, because not burnt out from working all day. You know, it's nice to come in, you know, talk and have a good time. On the weekend of March 1st, I attended the Fort Francis Lakers first ever Pride Night. It went really well. It was a lot of fun. A lot of people from the community came out to the hockey game and the Drake show that happened afterwards. There's no issues. Everything went well. And while I was in Fort Francis, I had a coffee with Howard Hampton. It was nice to talk with them. It's nice to tell him that my first ever volunteer was actually his 2004 provincial election. And nice to tell him that he's going to kind of go into politics and whatever. Attended the March 6th special council meeting. And then the next day we had our environmental committee meeting. That went well too. We have a few projects coming in too that I think are pretty important. And on Monday, I attended the flag raising of the Two-Spirit Awareness Week proclamation in Lac Seul.
Yeah, attended the library board meeting and discussed the budget situation and raising its possibilities and the recruitment of a temporary person to fill the CEO's position, who is going on maternity leave in May or June. Attended the special meeting of council on the budget, environment committee. I did 3 meetings of local doctors, and then one position recruitment meeting with the committee. And, you know, I was able to learn that our invitations, our initiatives are quite appreciated by the locals, and particularly the pass to use the gym, which people have been accessing apparently. And then yesterday I attended a really interesting discussion, and I would send around to people the link to this. It's a company called Governance Solutions, and every Tuesday they offer a free 1.5 hour presentation on governance, and they're very, very interesting. They're very short, and you usually get one really good point per session. And yesterday's was really interesting. It's called hearing versus listening. And basically said, we're talking about in this government, we're looking at debate versus dialogue. And in debate, really, a debate is a winner and loser process. You come in with a position and you present your position, and it may not change. And that we need to be looking at dialogue, because dialogue is solving problems. And that's what we're here to do, is solving problems. And it's a much less formal situation than debating. And I think it's something that councils need to think about, is how do we solve problems so that it's not a win-lose process. And within the confines of the municipal act, which from my understanding is fairly flexible in terms of how we operate our meetings. Possibly even means more in-camera meetings where we discuss things with no rules at all, you just discuss. You know. So I think it's something really to think about, and the need to really listen to each other. And the coordinator of this, he said, you start with an open mind. It's fueled by open-mindedness, or well, fueled by your curiosity to why the other person believes what they believe, and enhanced by paying attention, by really listening. I think that's something we should be thinking about. And so I'll send those links around people if they're interested. I got onto it from the link that came through the municipal Gmail, or the municipal email, and they really are valuable. Well, last week it's on committees, and it's like, what are the purposes of committees, and how should committees operate? It's really, really good. In half an hour, and you learn one important issue. I would send a link around everything. That's it. Oh, I did want to mention too, Ignace is hosting expo on the nuclear waste, or rather, Ignace is hosting for the Nuclear Waste Management Organization an expo April 11 and 12. And I think it should be something really valuable for councillors to go to, because this is become a very topical issue in the next year. And I think we need to be informed of the where things are at and the facts, so we can discuss this with the people who approach us on. Now, it's not, Sioux has no say in the matter. It's even up to Ignace, but we are going to be approached. People about where we sit with this. And that's it, sorry.
Thank you. I'll just say CIO to Councillor Timpson's points about no winners and losers. I'm not going to call any votes anymore. We'll just leave it for staff to figure out. Councillor Ball.
Maybe allow us applause from the public. March 6th, I attended the special council meeting. Budget. In my travels, I was contacted by several tourist outfitters in regards to boat launches serviced by the municipality. I passed the information off to see the role. Also ran into the new rec director, congratulated her on the position. So good luck and see you around the rink. And the whole course and tennis courts. Yeah, it was a quiet one for me. I went on a little trip, so I had some time myself. And I agree, Joyce dialogue is good.
Thank you, Councillor Costa.
On February 26th, we had a TRC meeting, and I would like to say that the TRC committee is developing nicely, and we've had some very fantastic conversations. And we had Nicole Carboni from Sioux North High School come and talk about her Society and Change 4U class. And she is interested with her students to redesign the anti-racism signs that have fallen down, and as a student initiative to make change into the community. And we did give them $500 of our $2,500 to start. She's seeking additional partners. And she just wanted us to talk about it so people, when she's out there looking and talking to people, can know what's happening. We recommended that she talk to the Chamber of Commerce and see if she gets some map funding. I think her total project is a little over $10,000. So I think they have a couple other projects they're doing as well. So the idea is to get the youth into the community, making positive changes for everyone's betterment. So, you know, we were pretty excited that we were able to support her and her students. And the students are going to do the design work themselves, and they are going to write the dialogue for the signs. So the next generation are going to step forward to do that work, which is pretty positive. So we're pretty excited about that. And I really did like the change of going from 11 to 1. We did have a limited time because you only have 2 hours, but our chair, I think it was our staff person, constantly reminded us so that which was very good. Yeah. So then we're like, they watch, I'm excited. So it really worked well. And we did, we had a meal. I did provide a meal, which I think I will continue to do. I will continue to provide those meals as a donation myself, just because I believe in that format, with the lunch and TRC sharing of food. And this one, we were lucky that we got roast meat, but I don't think that will happen again unless someone wants to give me some roast meat. And I attended the budget meeting. I also met with various members of the public about their concerns around the budget, any conversations, etc. I have spent a great deal of time analyzing the budget. I think I met with Brian, and my grandson came to me and asked me if I would have a conversation with the mayor and CAO on an idea that he had as a 9-year-old. So I will be meeting with you, Brian, about that. I just wanted to let him know I am going to follow through, and it was a great idea.
So I will donate a moose roast to you.
Oh, thank you.
Again, I attended the March 6th budget meeting and the LCC meeting. From the LCC meeting, we learned, and I guess this is public knowledge because I talked to both councils there, that a new road is being built off of 642 for forest operations, but apparently it's supposed to link the South Shore Drive, so they'll have a better road to use. That's some good news. And that was my month, nice and quiet.
Thank you. It's been quiet, but busy. I think the day after the last council meeting, CIO and I had a meeting with the Ministry of Long-Term Care as a follow-up because we didn't get I feel like I've reported on this before, but maybe it was what I did was I wrote an article then on long-term care. Maybe that's why I feel like I reported. An interview with the Bulletin, and although I had that noted in my diary, I can't exactly remember what the interview was about. It might be wide-ranging, Tim. Various meetings with the CIO on various topics. The health unit, we've been continuing with the merger committee. It's coming to, we've met with our consultant. We'll be getting a draft report, draft final in the next week or two. So that will be interesting. had an interview with the Toronto radio station after after I issued the public letter, I think, on the LCBO controlled entry cancellation. Got a call from a Toronto radio station that broadcasts in Toronto, Hamilton, and London to do an interview on that. KSB Finance Committee held unit regular board meetings, meeting with Eric Melillo. And I'm not sure I'll have any luck, but I asked him to follow up on our Housing Accelerator Fund application that was denied and give us a bit, if he could find out more information, who was successful, who wasn't, put it all on a map for us and see where they all are. Interested in that. Special council meeting, budget, Health Unit Executive Committee meeting, Ontario Health Team. We met in Thunder Bay at the invitation of Ontario Health North as a reset meeting for our health team, which is the Keewaydin Health Team. The one that didn't work before in the Lynn system was Sioux North, and the one that doesn't, we're struggling is Sioux Red Lake, Dryden, etc. So there's more meetings coming up in Dryden in about 2 weeks. Meetings with various constituents. Attended the Legion membership appreciation dinner last week. Very good. Meeting with today, met with the Kenora Chamber of Commerce. Executive director, he called one of the meeting. They're following up on the cancellation of the controlled access for the LCBO, trying to do a joint Chamber of Commerce with Thunder Bay, Kenora, ourselves, and include Dryden. I had an interview with CBC Radio in Thunder Bay today on the coming forest fire season, and we want to thank CEO and the fire chief for giving me some talking points there, which is essentially there's great concern about the fire season this year. So the preparations as best we can are being made. Wrote a couple of Mayor Desk articles on that topic, the AMO topic, Toronto Silicate, just a few things. I didn't put in the direct comparison of the $600 million that they received for additional money for shelter and what was that for the refugees, etc. The City of Toronto is different because the City of Toronto Act is not a municipality, so I know their funding is slightly different. So you don't want to be too critical because there might be things in there that they have to carry that we don't, but still. And then I think it was something that you said, Councillor Prosper, made me think, well, yeah, I know it was the meetings and how you had the 2 hour, the 11 to 1 meetings, and there's food, but the staff actually, when we do advocacy meetings with ministers in Toronto, it's 15 minutes. They provide no water, no food, no nothing, and there's a knock after 5 minutes on the door. Your 5-minute warning, and at 15 minutes, the staffer goes, it's over, they've opened the door and your meeting's over. So sure if your staff person is quite that aggressive.
Oh, no, definitely. They're very aggressive.
And councillors, you will be getting an invitation from me for a 1 hour, like I said, a 1 hour touch base meeting. Do I have to provide Moose to keep you? It's going to be. I just want to touch base with each of you as individuals. I'll be sending out, trying to hook up with you and just sit down with you, and let's call it a councillor survey, satisfaction survey, or something like that. Just a chance to sit down together. That's my report. Thank you. Pepper, it's okay. Don't make them too spicy. I mean, pepper is good. We are now, I guess, moving into closed session at 7:58 p.m. Subject matter relating to personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal and local board employees per Municipal Act 2001 as amended, section 239(2)B. One item, appointments to council boards, commissions, and committees membership. Moved by Councilor Lego, seconded by Councilor Gospel. In favor. Very good night, Chief. Thank you. And you gonna have it with a motion or?
Three minutes, yeah, so with respect to reporting out from closed session, there is one motion arising from closed session for council's consideration. It reads as follows. That subject to receipt of satisfactory police record check, council appoints the following as Sioux Lookout representatives to the new Sioux Lookout OPP Detachment Board effective April 1st, 2024, with a term ending November 14th, 2026. Mayor Doug Lawrence as our council appointee and Darlene Angelneb as the community appointee.
Thank you. Moved by Councilor Van Guido, seconded by Councilor Bone. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you very much. Thank you for your confidence. Bylaw number 24-24, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of Municipality of Sioux Lookout, March 20th, 2024, regular council meeting be read first, second, and third time and passed. Moved by Councilor Leggo, seconded by Councilor Dempsey. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks very much, everybody. A good dialogue.